Counting down in 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Welcome, everybody, to another live stream of the Sports Refuge. Of course, I am your host, Earl Holland, and thank you for tuning in, especially on all avenues of social media. We're on YouTube, we're on Facebook as well, and eventually we're going to get on Twitch. Maybe if you guys are out there in the internet world and watching there, don't hesitate to say hello. I am Earl Holland, of course, and with me tonight in this live stream, my guest, she is a former high school and college softball player. I was lucky enough to interview her for her announcement when she was deciding to go to the University of Maryland Eastern Shore. A lot of you people in the Salisbury, Maryland area may know her. This is Kelly Cullen. Thank you for being on the show, Kelly. I really appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule. I know things have been getting a little crazy and ramping back up, especially as people are starting to get out of their houses now.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you a lot for having me. It's an honor, since we worked together when I was in high school a lot. I'm honored to be on your show with you tonight.
Oh yeah, and thank you for being here. I know one of the biggest things when I think about you, I always think about softball, especially pitching for Bennett. What led to you playing softball as we get right out of the gate?
I think a lot that led with it. I started off with like playing Fruitland Little League. Like I've come up from there. My family was big into sports. So where I went from playing Little League baseball, I went into Wycomico Rec and Parks, into their softball league. And then I met Coach Kim Fitzgerald, who is the Bennett softball coach. I met her. I had classes with her at Bennett Middle, and then I ultimately went to James and Bennett after and started my high school career. So it was a lot that built up to it because I played like travel ball and stuff like that. So a lot of time, I was very dedicated to it. And it was just a lot of fun. You just met a lot of new people, and I like to travel and stuff. So the travel ball portion of it really pushed me to want to really play and be serious in high school.
I know you briefly mentioned playing Little League baseball. How long did you end up playing before you ended up going towards the direction of softball?
Oh gosh, maybe I don't think I got into like the older years of playing Little League. I think I played like a couple years Little League, and then I transitioned over to the softball part of it. So yeah, I don't really remember much of playing the baseball part just because I was so young. Like I started when I was 5. So I mean, softball really is just the whole, what I've done my whole life, basically.
In addition to softball, did you play any other sports on recreational or even high school teams?
I used to play soccer. So I played soccer at Crown, and I played some travel soccer. So, but then when I got to high school, it was all just softball. So
What were some of the things that you were taking from your experience playing soccer that you were maybe able to use in softball, if at any?
Probably the conditioning part of it, just with like all the running and stuff like that. Um, I think that's really it. Really, I mean, I had thought about playing soccer in high school, but yeah, no, I wasn't as dedicated to that as I was softball.
I know you mentioned the travel aspect of playing softball. To you, what was a normal routine for a travel game like?
I think the normal routine for me personally was, well, obviously you'd practice throughout the week. So I was used to doing like 3 practices a week, and then you're playing all weekend. And you could play like up to 4, 5, 6 games a day, and then you go into Sunday to your championship day. But yeah, it just took a lot of more dedication, a lot more, putting in a lot of more extra hours than it does. I mean, not saying high school doesn't really, you don't put a lot of time into that, but you're really like, you'll get off school, you do your homework, you go to travel ball practice, and then you go and do it all over again. So I think it takes it's a lot of dedication to it if you want to play it. So
Mhm. From my experience as a reporter, just sort of watching everything going on when you're just sort of trying to take stock of everything, I always noticed that the dugouts were always an active place, especially more so, I think, in softball than in baseball. And I know there may be a few people who played baseball at different levels who might say otherwise. But
right.
what is it like in a softball dugout? What is the, I guess, emotion and the energy like?
Just the energy is like always like high strung. So like I mean honestly, I've never seen another sport like it kind of. So, but I mean, I've also lived it. So I think with softball, it's either okay, if you have like a bad inning or something, you come in, your teammates are cheering you up most of the time. And like just the energy just pumps you up because they're like all in there cheering for you. Everybody's all hyped up. Most people they play music nowadays, so they always have like their music playlist. I mean, when I first started, we didn't really have all that. So now I think it's a lot more amped up now than it used to be. But yeah, the energy is just great. It's great to be a part of something where you're just like hyped up the whole time. And like, especially when you're winning or you're having like a good inning or, everybody's hitting the ball, everybody's doing good. It just makes it 10 times better.
Are you a very a loud person in the dugout?
I like to think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, I like to cheer my teammates on. I like to be I like to be positive, but it doesn't always happen the way I want it to be. Um, but yeah, I like to cheer my teammates on. I like to be loud. I like to cheer everybody on. Just so everybody, like, if you're not having a good inning, okay, try to pump you up. Just because. I mean, sometimes you just have to put your team before yourself. So like if you're not having a good time or if you're not, performing the way you all like you should be, your team's behind you, to step up and be there for you and put you on their backs.
To you, what is the best way to describe how meaningful softball has been to you?
To me, I think it's been very meaningful. I mean, it's brought me close to so many people. Um, Growing up playing travel ball, I mean, I've met people from all over. I've traveled all over. I've been coached by amazing coaches who, I mean, they really have pushed me to where I'm at today. Um, my family, they've traveled all over with me. I mean, yes, they've sat at like tons and tons and tons of softball games, but I mean, those are times they'll never get back. We've all enjoyed the traveling. Um, Teammates just I mean, I still talk to people today that I played with when I was like 10. I mean, so, lifelong friends, stuff like that. And it's just the fact of being a part of something is just I don't know. It means a lot to me. I don't even really have words for it. So the game means a lot to me.
Now, I've seen you as a pitcher primarily throughout your high school career. What drew you to pitching? And in addition to pitching, what other positions do you play?
What drew me to pitching, I think a lot had to do with my family. So in my family, they're like all pitchers. So on my dad's side of the family, we've got like our older cousins. They pitched for Parkside. My younger cousin actually played with me my senior year, and I think my junior year, Casey Donalds, she was also a pitcher. Brittany Donalds is my cousin. She was the varsity starter at Parkside. So that rival kind of, Parkside Bennett. So we pitched against each other. Just the whole, like, I don't want to say like the family influenced it, but it was just something that, you grew up seeing. So it's like, okay, cool. Like, let's do this. I mean, and now we have like younger cousins who are coming up through travel ball and coming up through Mardella, Madison Donalds, Elena Donalds. They're all coming up and they're all pitchers too. So it's something to look at. I feel like you kind of like pass the legacy on and you look at it and it's just a good time. But other positions that I played in high school was third base. I really like that, but I just like the intensity on the mound a little bit more. So, yeah.
To you, which one actually involves quicker reflexes, pitching or third base? I know third base, they always call it the hot corner, but which one involves quicker reaction, especially for a line drive?
Gosh, that's a hard question. I think maybe pitching. But then again, I don't know, because you're already in motion when you're pitching. So if you have a line drive come back to you, you're already kind of ready for it. But like if you're playing third and you're not ready, then if you're not ready, I mean, you either catch it or eat it. So, I mean, so probably third base, honestly. I think I'm going to change my answer. Third base, I think.
I know you were talking about being in position to catch a line drive. Really, what's the worst, the hardest hit ball you remember coming back at you?
The hardest hit ball I remember was when I played at UMES. I think I was pitching against Savannah State, and they had a girl come up who was batting cleanup, so, heavy hitter, and she line drive one back at me and hit me in my leg so hard that I had to wear football pads underneath my softball pants for like the remainder of the year. That's probably the hardest hit ball I remember. Like it was bad. Like my whole leg was bruised up. So that's probably the hardest hit ball that I remember.
Wow.
Yeah.
Oh, yep. Man. I just think, man, I've seen some crazy things and just watching co-ed rec ball, just, you know, and definitely not as geared up as a lot of the college and high school level pitchers. I mean, does that gear offer as much protection as you'd like it to, or?
No, I think they just did that as like a safety thing, but I didn't really like wearing them. So, but I mean, I had to because the athletic director said that I had to do it to be able to play or keep playing because that's how bad my leg was bruised up. But yeah, I think from like my younger days playing up until now, the protection level of, wearing the face mask, stuff like that, it's really burned, which I believe is a good thing because the way that bats are made now, I mean, if you get a line drive hit back at you, she's coming hard. I mean, and it's probably going to hurt you and do some damage to you if you don't have that protection there. So that's just something that I really recommend everybody to wear. So, yeah.
I know when it comes to pitching, everybody thinks of a pitcher's repertoire. They always think of baseball, but for being a softball pitcher, what is a particular repertoire that you have? If someone were to do a scouting report on you pitching, what are your pitches what are your go-to pitches?
My go-to pitches would probably have been a changeup, a curveball. My pitches usually had a natural curve on it. So, when I would throw that pitch, it would curve a lot more than normally would. And probably, I would say probably a rise ball. Those would be my top three.
Yeah, and I always wonder, just sort of in a thing where I guess velocity is just still as important in softball as it is in baseball, but especially with the shorter distance, it's really hard to sort of understand, I guess, the difference in what a true softball fastball is like.
Right. I don't really know. I mean, I know people talk about it, like, well, what's the difference here? What's the difference here? And, it's been a big debate over the years. But I mean, unless you really play softball and baseball, you can't really answer that. I just think I know I probably couldn't hit a baseball. I mean, so obviously the ball is coming in differently from, over top and then under. So, I mean, I think they both have their toughness to hit aspect of it. So,
Was there a pitch that you had tried to experiment with and you're like, nah, I don't think I can get the grip on it, or it's not doing what I want it to, or
probably a screwball. I never threw that pitch. I never really, got into it. I would place it there, but it never really did what it needed to do. So it would just really come inside. I would just try to throw it there, but a screwball, that wasn't one of my pitches that I threw. So that's probably the only one.
So what was a grip for a screwball? I'm curious. I always saw like some of the MLB pitchers, they would just take their hand, they would have it. It felt like it was sort of weird, like a weird type of slider type thing where they would just use all their fingers. What is the normal grip for a
Right.
screwball, or at least a screwball you tried?
The one that I tried was you'd have the ball and you'd well, let me see. Like you'd have your finger down here, like somewhat on the ball like that, and you'd just like kind of throw it in, but you'd step that way. But personally, for me, which people probably think it's crazy, my grip for all my pitches was the same. It was always on the C. So I never changed my grip on my pitches at all. So there's a fun fact.
So not even a spatial difference. Was it just a tight
Nope.
grip, or was it a loose grip, or nothing? Wow.
It was just the movement of the arm, release of the pitch, and for my change up, I just gripped it tighter. So yeah, I never changed my grip up for any of that.
Yeah, I was always curious just sort of how that worked with the grip, especially you're throwing from a completely different angle as opposed to, like you mentioned, overhead or three quarters and things like that.
Right. Yeah. I mean, people would probably think of that like, oh, wow, what? Like, you're definitely not throwing it right. I mean, to each their own. It worked for me. I know a lot of pitching coaches nowadays, they go through all the, different, gosh, what's it called? Like the different grips, the different release points and stuff like that. Well, when I began pitching, the person who taught me, like, I only had like the main points. I never went to a pitching coach. It was just, okay, you do this for this, you do this for that, and okay, here you go. Like, I never had a pitching coach. But nowadays everybody's getting the whole, here's the grips, you need to do this, you need to step like this. And yeah, I mean, I think it's really good for the kids learning now. But at the time, that's not how I learned. But it's great that people are learning like that now. The actual, how to grip the ball, how to release the ball, where to step, to throw the pitch. I mean, I think it's really good. But that's just not how I pitched, kind of taught myself.
And it really worked, and it paid off, especially playing on the
Yeah.
college level. Before we mention a little more about the college level, what did you prefer, the atmosphere of the high school softball level or the travel ball? I always feel like there's two different experiences when you look at them from different aspects.
Yeah. I think honestly, I think both of them because they both offered so much different things. So like with the travel ball, I enjoyed, compete. I think I'm not saying there's not a good competition level in the Bayside, but I'm saying you see all different types of levels of competition when you're playing travel ball. So I think being with my friends there, people who I'd grown up with, being able to play with them, playing against my other friends, and learning like so much about the game. I think that's what I enjoyed the most. And obviously the traveling because I love to travel. That's what I enjoyed most about travel ball. With high school ball, it was completely different because you go to school, you get out, you go to practice, whatever. So there, like, if I could go back and do it over again, I'd do it. I would do it all the time because it was just so much fun. Like, you just meet so many different people who, like, if you were in the hallways at school and you didn't play a sport or you all weren't involved in the same type of sport, like, these are people you would never talk to a day in your life. But now it's like I said with travel ball before, like, I'm still friends with these people who, I played with my freshman year, played with sophomore year. I'm still friends with them today. And it's people I would have never talked to before if we didn't play softball together. And just the coaches, like, I have a very good relationship with my coaches still today. Um, it's just more of a family, I think, than a team with the people I've played over the years.
And that's definitely true. And actually going on to the next point about softball in high school, I know when you were playing and the time I was a sports reporter, it was more rampant than it was any other time where, people would change schools for whatever sport just to sort of get that advantage. Sort of, you end up seeing sort of the super teams at some
Right.
schools, and I'll leave whatever schools those are and
Yeah.
whatever sports they are left alone. But everybody knows it didn't matter. You could see it in the newspaper, you could hear it on Twitter, you could see it somewhere else. Other people are talking about it.
Yep.
Did the thought of ever transferring to sort of pursue either greater exposure or uh, competitive advantages, did it ever cross your mind? And if so, how close were you to deciding to leaving Bennett before changing your mind?
Um, Absolutely not. No, I would have. No, there's no way that because you would see it. I mean, like you just said, you'd see kids. They'd play 1, 2 years at one school, and then you're transferring off somewhere else. No. So obviously, like you said, we've seen it. Okay, y'all are stacking up teams, but then they came out with the rule, I guess, where you'd have to sit a year or something if you transferred. But back to the question, no, I would have never. I would have never left my Bennett softball team. Never, absolutely not. And I mean, and during the time when I was playing, this is how crazy it gets. My family had moved, so we were in Y High district, and this might be breaking the rules or whatever, but we kept our address where I was still able to go to Bennett, still able to play with my team because that was my team. Like that's who I started with, that's who I'm gonna finish with. So I mean, and no, the coaches amazing there. The school, my teachers, they're great. And just the whole like community together with that. I mean, and I wanted to start my own, like I said, my family, they had gone to Parkside and stuff like that. I wanted to start my own legacy somewhere else. I didn't want to have to be up behind somebody else or like, oh, this is so and so's cousin. Like, no. So Bennett was my home. Bennett's where I stayed, and I did not have any thought of transferring, moving, or anything. So, no.
Did people try to recruit you? Now, while you may have not decided, did other people say you should come here and get another shot? Get a shot. It's 1A here or it's 2A here or something
Right.
like that.
Um, I don't think so. I mean, nothing that was brought to my attention. I mean, comments may have been said, but nothing that was brought directly to me, no. But I'm sure that happens a lot nowadays and prior.
Yeah,
So,
and I know living in Delaware probably is not as easy, especially northern Delaware, probably not as easy as it was when the Bayside was more like the Wild West, where
right?
you see somebody in September, next thing you know, Thanksgiving. They went
Exactly.
from Bennett to Y High, or they went from Snow Hill to Decatur, or the other way around.
Exactly. Yep.
After your decision, after staying at Bennett all 4 years, going to UMES, what led to your decision to play softball at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore?
I think my biggest decision was, for one, it was close to home. I live 10 minutes. My family lives 10 minutes down the street. I'm a homebody, so I didn't want to leave home. I didn't want to go to school somewhere else other than the Eastern Shore. Um, Another thing was I wanted to play Division I softball, just so I can like travel because I love to travel, like I said. Um, I wanted to travel. I wanted to go down south, playing in the MEAC. You're traveling all the time down south. I mean, that's my favorite part. And I think another thing that really led it was throughout high school, I had done the CTE program at Parkside and I was involved in criminal justice. So they had the criminal justice major there. So I wanted to, pursue that. But yeah, that's what really led me there.
Before we go back to the softball part, you mentioned criminal justice. What was it that led to an interest in criminal justice? I mean, like you said, a good program down at UMES, but to you, what has been your aspirations when it came to criminal justice?
I think that really brought me into wanting to do that just because I thought it was interesting. And I was really involved in like wanting to help people. My interest was to like do child advocacy, so like investigating child crimes and stuff like that. But life happened. We take different paths. Not saying that I did anything wrong. I can't be in the criminal justice program or anything, but I'm just saying like So I didn't go in the job field that I expected to go in when I graduated. So I still have my bachelor's in criminal justice, but I am working in a different job field. So, I mean, I always have something to fall back on if, I do decide to go in that field. So,
Was it more on I know you mentioned child advocacy would be more on the, I guess, sort of the law enforcement officer side or more on the lawyer side?
I think more on like the law enforcement side. So like I really wanted to be like sort of like a detective or something like that. I wanted to go in that type of field. So I wanted to be the one like investigating, okay, what happened here? Like we're getting all this information, interrogation, stuff like that. So that's really what I wanted to do, but you know, other paths happen. I think there's a plan for everybody, so that just wasn't it.
Mhm. And going back to your to the softball aspect of playing at UMES, what was it like? I guess even what was the adjustment from going from the college level, the high school level of playing softball to the college level? What was the biggest difference?
I think probably all the practicing because honestly, like my day would go, which I didn't live on campus, so every morning I would have to drive there at like 5:15 in the morning to get ready for like your morning campus runs and your morning workout, stuff like that. Then you'd go to class at 8 o'clock. You'd do all that. You'd have another practice at like 3 or so, and then you'd go to dinner, and then you'd have another practice like later that night. And it was just all the time. So it's really something where you have to work on your time management. You have to work on, studying extra hard because you're like missing out on a lot of time. Um, and I think it was just a real big difference because you have so much more freedom down there. So you really have to stay on top of things, to be successful in your studies and maintain being on the softball team.
Yeah, I actually did one of the practices when I was a freshman at UMES. I tried out for the baseball team. Yeah, after getting up and doing the practices at 6 o'clock in the morning with one of my friends, we had never played. We never made the varsity or JV in high school. Honestly, I'm like, nope, this is not for me. I mean, if I'm gonna get up early, I might as well wait for an 8 o'clock English class that you can't avoid. But that
Right.
ended up being me down the road. My friend ended up playing. Never played high school baseball on the varsity or JV level, played baseball at Division One level as a walk on.
Jeez, that's
Yeah,
crazy. Well, that's good.
yeah, yeah. He enjoyed that experience. I mean, that's interesting. I mean, and you got a scholarship to play at UMES, right?
No, I
Or
was actually just a walk on.
walk on as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
What was that like? Especially again, competing for a spot on a walk on. Was that I hear some people had were told, well, you as a walk on, you have a shot of making the team. But was it a tough competition for a walk on spot?
Um, I don't believe so. I mean, like my situation was different because I kind of was offered, but they didn't want to use the scholarship money on me because my financial aid was paying for everything. So I mean, I understand where they're coming from. So I technically was a walk on, but I still signed my letter of intent. So I mean, I think it was difficult in the aspect, I mean, kind of for everybody to earn your spot because we had a bunch of new freshmen coming in. One of the freshmen, which was a local, she went to Laurel High School. Her name's Alexis Hudson. So I played with her. So that we had a lot of talent in our freshman class. So I mean, everybody had to step up and work for a position.
Yeah, I remember Alexis. Yeah, I covered a lot of Laurel stuff too. It's interesting. Uh, I actually did you play with Carmen as well, Carmen Fraser?
I did. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yep.
I was she there what during your sophomore year
She
or
was there
just
my freshman year.
freshman year? Okay,
Yep.
yeah, cause I knew your paths crossed, but I was just trying to remember what that time period was.
Yep. Yep.
What was the experience like, especially traveling on the road, playing in the MEAC? You mentioned the competition, traveling down south. What were the experiences like, especially just sort of getting away more from the Eastern
Yeah.
Shore?
The experiences were great until you stepped on the softball field most of the time. I mean, we got it handed to us. I mean, once you get down south, like those are different types of people down there because these people were like it was bred into them. Like you're going to be an amazing softball player. But I mean, we had a team to compete. I just don't think all of the I don't know. I don't think it all just meshed together like it should had. But we had really good girls that played for us. But yeah, we just didn't have a good record when I was there. But the traveling, it was a lot, and we had a lot of fun when we did that. So we would mostly leave on like a Thursday every week, and then we'd come back a Sunday. And then you go to class on Monday, but you wouldn't have practice on Monday. So it was fun. It was different, but like I said, you had to like really stay on top of things, or if not, you're gonna fail out your class. So.
Was there, I guess, what was the downtime like on a road trip, and what were some of the interesting places you were able to visit?
The downtime was study hall. So when you're not doing it, like when you're back at the hotel, our study hall, I guess, athletic advisor would come with us on the road. And we still had to have 10 hours of study hall a week. So when we're in the hotel, I mean, we're doing study hall, we're studying, clocking in our hours because that's what you had to have to be eligible to travel every week was 10 hours of study hall. But I mean, we would go to like dinner. That's a lot of places. When we went to Savannah for spring break, we did like a couple different exhibition games when we were going for like a week and a half. So we went some pretty cool places there. I know they would normally go to like Tybee Island, like near Savannah, and just go to the beach down there. But yeah, we went a bunch of different places. So, and like you experience so much more when you're down there playing with these types of people. Yeah, but yeah, we had a lot of fun when we traveled.
Did you do any other extracurricular activities in addition to softball while at UMES?
Um, no, I did not. Mm-mm. Nope. I was more focused on, I think it's if I would have stayed on campus, I think I would have. But being, living off campus, I was more involved in the things, I was doing before I went to UMES. So like hanging out with my friends down here, going to class, coming home. I mean, it was kind of like that. So I didn't really if I would have went back, I would have involved myself in a lot more. I mean, I made a lot of friends down there, don't get me wrong. But I would have gotten involved in a lot more things than I did.
Mm-hmm. Um, how long did you end up playing at UMES?
Well, I played my freshman year and then I quit, unfortunately. If I could go back, I'd redo it all. But I think my personal life got involved in it a little too much, and I just wasn't enjoying the game like I thought I would when I went to college. Because it's just such a different atmosphere. Well, not like atmosphere, but I'm saying it's like so much put on you. Um, and like we didn't have a good winning record. We Our record was actually horrible my freshman year. And I didn't think I could ever unlike the game like I did when I was playing there. So I just felt like not that it was a waste of time that I was putting in, or that I could be doing something totally different. But it was just a time in my life where I was like, okay, you know what? I think I'm just done with this softball thing. Like I think I'm done. So it was just I lost the love of the game when I went and played in college. So that was my only really decision on why I stopped playing.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah.
Uh, what do you feel like it would have been? You mentioned being a commuter as opposed to staying on campus. If you were on campus, what was campus life like when you were there on campus, outside of the softball and classes?
Um, Campus life when I was there as a freshman, was it was just crazy. Like you meet so many different people. So many different cultures are there just meshed together, and like you learn so much about just everything. Um, like they would have crazy like events, like everybody's having a good time. They didn't care what you looked like. Like it was literally just one big family. And like that's what I try to explain to somebody. I mean, like obviously being white, going to an HBCU, like some people would walk in there and they're like, oh my, this is different. Like this is a culture shock. But when I went there, I'm like, oh my goodness, like this is just great. Like, and I met so many different people. I mean, in high school, I was always the type of person where I get along with anybody. Like you could be anybody and I'm just going up there talking to you. We could be the best of friends. So like down there it's just so much different. Like everybody's so welcoming. I don't think I ever witness like any type of drama like with myself. I mean, I'm sure there was stuff that went on, but like, and everybody just had fun. Everybody was
Mhm.
just having fun, like the parties, like events, everything, basketball games. It was just fun, just a fun time.
I was about to ask, which were better parties, the Tall's gym parties or the cluster parties?
I would. I'm gonna take you back one. I would say the Talons parties.
Okay.
Talons, those the block parties, but clusters too probably. Yeah,
Yeah, because Talons was just built when I was graduating, so
yeah,
it was either, and nothing ever happened at Hawks Landing. I know it was either Taws, it was the clusters.
yeah,
Actually, I think the last weekend before I graduated, Talons was open, and there was like a little gathering. Well, little gathering. I can't say that. It was a gathering. I went for a little bit and like, nah, I'm just gonna turn back in. Went to bed like 4 o'clock and sprung up at 7:30 just to get ready to go to the high center
Oh my
for
god.
that for graduation. But yeah,
Yeah,
I'll admit I wasn't even much of the party type, which I mean I'd go. I went a couple times in Talls. Party ended early for reasons
yeah,
that I assume are still the same. Doesn't matter whatever you go to any party at any college.
mhm,
You know,
yep,
things end early because people don't know how to act. But yeah,
yep,
I would say that yeah, I would say I agree. Probably the cluster parties were a lot better.
yeah, yeah. It was always a good time down there. I mean, I definitely miss it. I wish I would have done some things differently, but yeah, it was definitely a good time down there.
Mhm. And just going back to the one thing you mentioned as being it's weird how to phrase this, but being a white person on at a historically black college,
Mhm,
you know, it's some people you hear mixed results. And again, I as anybody would know, you can't really tell what other people's experiences were. You can only just go by your own. But you
right.
know, the majority of people I know that were white who went to UMES, I don't think had much of an issue. And then that's you know, again, like I said, case by case basis and things like that. And you mentioned you had no problems, you saw no drama, no issues like that.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it there. I mean, I think everyone should experience, at least a semester or two at an HBCU because, like, you learn so much about just like I don't want to say like the world, but like you learn about so many different cultures. Like when I went there, I had students or like I had classmates in my classes who were like from like PG County and Baltimore, and they're just like totally different types of Marylanders. I'm like, wow, like I never seen this before, but like it's just so cool how like you can go okay Eastern Shore, then you got the Western Shore here, where these people are like different, like, and it's cool, like, so you just learn a lot about a lot of people, and it changes your mindset on a lot of things too.
Yeah, and it's funny. People even from Baltimore, you could find two people from Baltimore, and they're not even the same. It's
Exactly.
two completely different cultures. And I always used to joke that how a lot of people from across the bridge used to talk about how country we would sound, and
Mm,
they had more of a twang or an accent than we did.
right. Exactly. Yeah. Definitely. The way they talk is a lot different. But now, like, I can always pick up on like it's like, oh yeah, you're from Baltimore, or, like yeah, you're from New York. Like I can pick up on the stuff, so it's just so funny because I know if I not saying if I wouldn't have went there, I wouldn't know like these different types of dialects that people use, but like I really wouldn't. So it's just cool, just like the little things that you pick out.
Yeah, especially like somebody says something with an O in it, and you can tell they're from Baltimore or not. That's how you can really tell just through that dialect.
Right.
What is the biggest takeaway from your experience at UMES?
I think my biggest takeaway was just like meeting new people, which it sounds weird and it sounds like that might not have been like much, but like people, I'm the type of person where people will open like my mindset up to like different things. So like if I learn something about you or if I learn something about like where you're from or like your culture or like just really anything, it really just sticks with me. So that's something that I take throughout life where okay, so I learned this about this. Maybe if someone else doesn't understand the way that I'm looking at it, or if the way that someone else who I know has experienced these types of things um, is trying to explain something or says like how this is affecting them, maybe I can be the one to okay, well, this is what I've seen here. Let me try to break it down for you a little bit, and just pass off that knowledge that I've learned, which that's probably my biggest takeaway from going to UMES. So that would be it.
Yeah, and I think one of the biggest things and is just from my experience, I have friends, I still have friends I keep in contact with. People I didn't even know, like going to Snow Hill for a long time. I had friends who I met in college who went to school like in Delmar, who went to school in Salisbury, and there's a good chance that I probably went to school with some of the people in Salisbury. I have friends I've been kept in touch with. I can say I've known people for almost it really has been about 20 years since since I first started going to UMES, and I try to keep in contact in touch with them. And I think that's one of the biggest things. The friends that you make from your time in college. I mean, there's different levels of friends. There's the friends people you've been friends with since elementary school. Then there's the people you were friends with in high school. Then there's the people you went to college with that I guess see you as you mature more, and then there's work friends and there's different levels of work friends there too.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, like you said, I've got tons of friends from like all over the United States. I mean, I had a friend in college who was from Alaska. I mean, Colorado, California, Ohio, and then all the way up the East Coast. I mean, like you just meet so many different people. So I just think that's a real good thing about, going to college specifically. And then, being involved in like sports or extracurricular activities. So I think it really just gets you out there like that.
I know you mentioned traveling. Where was the furthest you've traveled? Your favorite place to travel, and what's your dream place to visit?
My furthest place that I've traveled was Arizona and Las Vegas. I went with my best friend for my 22nd birthday or something like that. So yeah, that was the furthest place that I'd been like alone with like, someone my age. So we were kind of just thrown out there. So um that's the furthest place I've been. A place that I really want to go would probably I want to go to an island somewhere because like I've never been out of the country. So like I'm thinking like maybe like Mexico or I don't know, like a Caribbean island or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and it's funny. I know people. It's interesting to see how many people who don't even have a passport, and it's funny when you look at the investment of it. It's good for 10 years, and it's like paying what $11 a year for 10 years. So you
Right.
don't have to even you get it done once. The worst you have to deal with is like getting a pharmacy photo for your passport photo at like the pharmacy. It's like the
Right.
ice cream. Their cameras are like the ice cream machines at McDonald's. They never work sometimes.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah.
After college, I know you got back into playing softball again, playing co-ed stuff. What led to that decision to get back to it? How did you find the love for softball again? And do you play any fast pitch anymore?
I think what really brought me back to it, well, I began playing slow pitch with you for the Daily Times team. And I just stayed involved in it, a lot over the years. I ended up putting teams into the Salisbury League, and now last year I played in like 4 leagues last season. So like I kind of had to take it down a notch because I was literally leaving work every day and going to a league game. So I'm like, okay, Kelly, you really got to just slow her down because we're not as young as we used to be, and I really am feeling that on my body. But, but currently, I do play on a slow pitch women's team called Team Autism Apparel. So we do a lot of traveling throughout the season, throughout the year. And it's really just really brought me back into the community. I mean, it was different because from, playing all these years fast pitch, growing up with these girls, and then switching into co-ed that I played for a couple years. And I'm playing with like men, I'm playing with women, which mostly I was playing with men. And then to transition back to playing with all women, I mean, it was completely different. I mean, but these girls are great. And you play with people from all age groups. So it shows you that, it doesn't just stop when you graduate or, when you age out of playing travel ball. So there's something for every age group out there if you still are interested in playing ball. So it's fun.
I know you mentioned playing for so many different teams. Would you say softball became an addiction again, or?
Oh, for sure. For sure. Like, a year ago, I would playing all these leagues, and then every weekend I'm playing in a benefit tournament, or throughout the week, if you don't have a game, you're out the field hitting. I'm like, then you're kind of like, okay, well, what am I doing all this for? Because it's fun and all, but I'm using up a lot of time, and I'm getting old. So I was like, using up all the time. Well, now that I've joined this women's team, it's like, okay, now we're kind of on some serious path here. So now we're actually working up towards, winning these different titles and, championships and stuff like that. So, I kind of feel like it worked itself out, but it's actually brought me to be, once you stop playing a competitive level and then you play like these little fun benefit backyard tournaments, it's like, okay, well, I'm gonna be out here being all lazy. Like, I'm not even going to really try. But now it's like, okay, Kelly, it's time to step it up a notch. We're playing back seriously. So, that's been a pretty good transition up until now. So now we're really just, in the swing of things. So it's fun.
I know you mentioned we always talk about your pitching, but honestly, we never talk about the hitting aspect. How good of a hitter are you?
Well, I kind of had this conversation today with someone, but I do not talk about how good I am. So, because I feel like it's kind of like I'm a very humble person. So you'll never hear me saying, oh, I'm this, I'm this, I'm this. Like some people, no, I do not talk about how good I am, because I'm a big believer of, you put bad juju on yourself. And when you talk about yourself, that's how, if I'm going to sit here and say, oh, I'm the best hitter out here, I'm doing this, I will go out there this weekend and not hit a thing. So I don't like to talk about myself, but I believe I'm above average. So I just like to let my skill level speak for itself. So
What are the distances fence distances that you guys play at in the leagues, and how many of you hit over the fence?
I think the guys are more. They're more. They're more the ones that hit them over the fence, because normally in the leagues we're used to playing on Henry Parker Field, so they're pretty big fields. I mean, they're not your average 200-foot field that you're playing in high school. So yeah, you're playing on the men's fields. So I mean, it's a lot harder for the women. I'm not saying nothing about women, because I know we can do it, but it's a lot harder for women to hit them out of that field with the big fence. So, but yeah.
Yeah, I was still amazed watching in one co-ed league where one woman, she cranked one out of the field behind Billie Jean Jackson. I'm shocked, because that's probably bigger than the YMCA field. Probably on par with I think probably on par with some of the other Henry Parker fields, but she cranked it, and left-handed too, nonetheless. Because I still remember that she put a jolt in that, and smaller ball, which of course the men end up using the bigger ball in the co-ed leagues. I was dumbfounded when I saw that.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of women that can really, they can hit them out of there, but I'm saying most of the women that play out there in these leagues, I mean, yeah, they're hitting them hard, but nobody's really putting them out of them fields like that. But there is a couple that can do it. So.
And I know you're under 30. I know you're definitely under 30. You're probably under what, 26, right? Under
I'll
26?
be 26 in June.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you were talking about the wear and tear. And I feel like, especially as you're under 30, and while you're no longer, you're no longer under 20, is it that physically demanding playing those games? I mean, do you feel even worse than you would have when you were playing in the high school level?
Oh yeah. Yep. Because, when you're playing high school and you're practicing every day, and, you're using them same muscle groups and, the same movement, stuff like that, you're putting in the reps. And, yeah, no. So if I go out and play a weekend, if I haven't done something throughout the week, religiously, then, oh yeah, I'm hurting on Monday morning. So, so yeah, it definitely puts some pressure on you.
Have you ever thought about coaching teams, even at the recreational or high school level? Has that ever crossed your mind, or would you do it if the opportunity comes across? I mean, I've seen a lot of young college age coaches who were about your age, who were teaching and coaching some teams on varsity.
Right. When I had graduated college, like a year or two after that, I began coaching with one of my best friends, a travel softball team. So I did that for about a year or two. And then, I had started a new job. So that was kind of demanding on my time. So I had to end up stopping that. So during that time, I actually had went back to Bennett and was helping Coach Fitzgerald coach the varsity team. So I did that for about 2 or 3 years. And then COVID hit and everything was kind of put on a halt. So they're starting back up. But my job is just very demanding right now during this time. So yeah, but I did go back, to the old stomping grounds, got to join Coach Fitzgerald. And it was just really good being back there. Like it was really like surreal being back on the field, but on the other side. So you really do witness a lot of things that you wouldn't had, taken into account when you were playing. So it was really cool.
One thing I had to ask about your time at Bennett, you were there during the building of the new high school, right? Were you
I
there once the tail end? I mean, what was that experience like transitioning from the old school to that new structure and just sort of everything changing? And look, I know I had some nieces who they saw what was like with Snow Hill, where they would see everything change around them. Everything they remembered is completely gone.
Right. My freshman year was in the old Bennett. So, I mean, yeah, that's totally different. Like, and it's kind of because where I went to Bennett Middle, it was kind of the same thing there. Like, you got the chicken house fans, you don't got no air conditioning, like, everything is kind of the same. So, it wasn't a big transition for me there. But then my sophomore year, we moved into the new school, and that was just like, wow, this is really like something. You all have really upped it up here. But yeah, it wasn't too bad of a transition. It was just where it was so much bigger and you had to really, you had to relearn like about everything, where everything's at. But yeah, it was really cool being the first, sophomore class in there. So it was fun.
Oh, now I was trying to remember. Oh, did you ever, I'm assuming that I don't know what other talents you have other than softball, but did you ever do rock and roll revival or anything along those lines or?
No, I didn't. Nope. I just did softball. That's it. Just just did one thing. That's it.
Mhm.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, I always hear about what it's like for rock and roll revival and how strenuous it is. I mean, singing itself is like honestly the equivalent of a sport within
Yeah,
itself, and I can only imagine the work they go through and things like that, and that had
for
to be
sure.
interesting.
Yeah, that's an awesome, awesome program that they do there. And the kids, they're just so talented. I mean, I've been a couple years to watch it and it's just like, wow, like you would never expect. Like, and it's the same thing with being like involved in a sports team. I would say it like that because like you have all these kids that come together. They're in this one, they're doing this one thing, this one production, and they're all coming together, which you've got these kids here and these kids over here who would never speak before until this one thing just brought them all together. So I think it's just really cool, and all the high school programs that they put on and all the extracurricular activities at the end of the day. I mean, I just think it's a great thing, and I think that's what's so sad about today's world where okay, you're not having these things happen, so what about the kids now? So I mean, I know I've talked to my mom about it. I mean, I would be devastated if I lost out on like my senior year, my junior year of doing things. So it just really it really hurts my heart for the kids nowadays. So
Yeah, and it's definitely crazy just seeing how uh just seeing some of these classes having to do virtual graduations and things like
right,
that. And I know last year when COVID first hit, everyone was doing the prom photo thing in solidarity for those who were missing their proms and senior pictures and things like that.
right,
And I could only imagine how tough and frustrating that is, and even the lack of a head start that you would have had in high school, people starting college in these circumstances who may feel they weren't even prepared for something like this, especially
right,
losing everything that they would have been able to do in class for their senior year.
right. I mean, and then it makes it think like who I don't like the kids where obviously you have the kids in these sports programs in high school where some of them aren't as fortunate enough to play in like a travel program or, AAU basketball or, any type of other club or whatever outside of high school. I mean, where do these kids get their, where is like a college recruiter seeing them at? Or, you would go to a Bennett basketball game, for instance, and you got college coaches out there in the stands watching them. Well, what about the kids who don't have the access to the outside, recruiting world of like AAU basketball or, playing like a travel sport? I mean, that's really what, I just think about crazy stuff, but like, I'm just like, my gosh, like I couldn't imagine. So I just think it really puts a damper on everything because all the missed opportunities that people, aren't going to have access to.
Mhm.
So.
Oh, no, I understand that completely, and yeah, that is just something eventually, I assume within the next 6 months or so that things will sort of get back to normal. I think
Right.
maybe this half of the school year might be a lost cause, but hopefully come late August, early September, that things are back to some semblance of
Right.
normalcy.
Yeah, hopefully we're on the upward with that, so we can hope.
Mhm. I know one thing, especially you've been going through. I guess lifestyle change would be sort of, I guess the term to use. I know that you've been heavily getting into working out in the gym and things like that. What led to
Yeah.
that decision to do that, and to you, what have you seen as a result of the work you've been putting in?
I think my biggest thing was, sometimes you're just ready for a lifestyle change or you just need something to spark, like you just need something. Like for so long, I was just the type of person where, you're just drifting through life, like you're not really having anything happen to you, it's honestly at the end of the day, it's just like you need to focus on you. So that was the biggest thing for me. And it's like, okay, well, like, what do I need to do here? Well, my ultimate goal was to continue playing softball, ultimately making like a travel team or joining a more serious softball team. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm about to hop in the gym, like, and it was really just a big stress reliever. It's something that I did that I enjoyed. Just working out and just feeling, getting your energy back. That was a big thing for me. So that was probably my biggest thing. I was looking for a change in my life. So that's really it.
To you, what's more strenuous, the lifting part or the cardio part?
Probably the cardio because I mean, you can ask any of my coaches. I hated the running. I didn't want to run. I don't want to do the cardio. I mean, that's the biggest thing on me. The lifting part, I mean, I would do that all day long. But the cardio part, it's fine too. But it's just not one of my favorite things to do. So
What's your personal? Do you have a personal best in bench or squat or anything like that?
no, I don't. I really don't. I just go in there and I do what works for me. So I don't go
Mhm.
by like a set plan. I go in there if I want to do arms today, if I want to do legs today, I just go in there and do it. I mean, it works for me. It might not work for everybody, and people think, well, you need to go in there with a set plan. You need to go in there doing this. You need to do this. You need to do this. And I'm just like, that does not work for me. This is working for me, so I'm going to continue to do this. And until it doesn't work, maybe I'll take your advice.
And yeah, like you said, you've seen a lot of gains. I guess, like I said, you've trying to the best way to describe this. Like I said, you've seen a transformation that where you've seen weight loss that you've seen beneficial from that. I guess
Yeah.
it's hard to say. It's hard to say to a woman like, "Well, you've lost weight," because
Yeah. Yeah.
that's the
Right.
worst thing you want to
No.
say to anybody.
Shoot, you can't offend me. Nope. But yeah, for sure. I mean, like, and I think a lot had to do with like I used to drink a lot of sodas, so I kind of cut them out. I mean, that's really what did it. I mean, the working out, yeah, that helped a little bit, but just cutting out sodas, focusing on like your portion control and stuff like that. So that's really what did it for me. But the gym, it really helped a lot. It made my moods better. Like I had some energy when I would go to work in the morning. Like I didn't want to lay in bed all day. So yeah, I mean, it's just fun, and I just like being at the gym. So,
How many hours do you spend at the gym?
um, normally, well, I'm gonna start going back, but normally I would do like 2 hours a night or something like that. Because normally I would do like a cardio class or something, and then I'd go out and I'd lift afterwards. But before like I started my new job, I was going like twice a day, which was working for me. So people say you don't have to go twice a day, you don't need to do this, but it worked for me. So I'm gonna start doing that again here soon. Yeah. But yeah, that's really what I do.
And yeah, and like you said, for everybody, it works differently. Some people they just do cardio all the time. Some people just lift and do no cardio. And I mean, and like I said, if it works for someone, it works for someone.
Right.
You know, yeah, it never hurt though. Although it never hurts to integrate a couple of things here and there.
Exactly.
Uh,
Exactly.
one of the things we want to do, just sort of, I guess, break the, just try something different from the norm. I always ask people this question when it comes to this celebrity lookalike. Who have you been told that people say you look like? And yeah, we'll go for that aspect. Who would you say that people say you look like? Oh, you look like so and so.
Gosh, I don't really know. I mean, oh man, I don't know. I have no clue. I have no clue. I mean, like, if I was gonna say, like, how we talked about earlier about like the movie or whatever, if I was to have somebody play me as a character as me as in a movie, I was thinking about this and I'm like, you know what, Kelly, you're pretty funny. So I'd probably go with like Melissa McCarthy because like she's one of my favorite actresses and she's hilarious and I tend to think that I'm pretty funny too. So, that's probably who I would pick.
Okay. What and yeah, because it's interesting when you ask people that, it sort of throws somebody off guard and it's like, man, I never really thought about it. Or some people are like, yeah, I've been told this, this, and this. So, they say like 3 or 4 different people, and it's always interesting
Right.
just to see what the response is to this, and because really it's something that makes people think. I remember in a class I had, one of my college professors who's still at UMES, she would have us talk to a media professional. We'd talk about the career, and then they would tell us to, throw some question out of there, like, well, if you were a color, what would you be, or something along those lines, or if you were an animal, what would you be? Because you never know what people will say, because it gets people thinking. Actually, that is an interesting question. If you were a color, what would you be?
If I was a color, probably purple because that's my favorite color. Just because, you know. So that'd probably be the color that I chose. What about you?
Oh, that is a good question.
See, I turn it on you. How about that?
Yeah, and that's rarely do I get a question color based. I would say blue. I like blue. Yeah, it's an interesting color. I feel like, again, different shades of it. That's always easy. Black would have been an easy answer to say because it goes with everything. But I'll say blue. I will definitely say blue.
Go. That's a good answer.
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
One before we start getting close to wrapping this up, one question I would ask you, especially like I said, you're fairly young, so you're 25 on the verge of turning 26 in June. Mm-hmm. What would be advice that you would give to your younger self?
Wow. Well, I think the advice I would give to my younger self would be don't give up, because I feel like I would have made it so much more further in my athletic career if I wouldn't have given up when I got to UMES. I quit my freshman year, so I definitely would have stuck that out. And also it would be probably to be nicer to yourself, because I was the type of, I still am the type of person, well, I would really just put myself down, stuff like that. So it would probably be to be more nicer to yourself, stay positive and just go with the flow and make it happen. So that'll be it.
And I always think that we're always our own worst critics. No matter how we see, a lot of people may give us praise and things like that, but it's just hard for us sometimes to accept that, which it can be a tough thing sometimes. I mean, it all depends to the extent on where we struggle with criticizing ourselves, because some people, okay, it's minor things, and other things, it can lead to a whole spiral and a deep, dark hole. And that's why it's always, like you mentioned, being kinder to yourself is something that is definitely important.
Right. Yeah, I think that's a big thing too. So that really would be my advice to myself and to anyone who is watching. So I would definitely do that.
Mm-hmm. As we start to wrap things up, what are ways people can reach out to you on social media? I know that it's funny. I think of in this generation of we know they have the Gen Zs and the millennials and things like that. I don't know what you would classify yourself as, if you can classify yourself more as a millennial or Gen Z, or if you even think about that. But
Yeah.
are you big on social media, and what are ways people can reach out to you?
Yeah, I have all basically social media accounts that can be reached out to on Facebook. Kelly Cullen, my name on Facebook. I have an Instagram. You can just search my name there. I'll pop right up. That's really the only ones that I really use. So yeah, on there. So
Mhm,
feel free to message me whenever. Send me a friend request.
mhm. Any particular shout outs? Anyone you want to give a shout out to, say hello to, people who are watching?
Probably, like my softball teammates, I'd probably shout them out. My mom, I'm sure she'll watch this. And really, that's it. Shouting out all my friends. So that's it.
Oh, one more thing I have to ask you before we go. I know you're a
Okay.
diehard Washington fan, Washington
Oh,
football team, Washington Redskins
yeah.
fan,
All
depending
right.
on the how you prefer it. First of all, I have to ask is what is your thought? What was your thought when they initially talked about the name change last I guess last spring or last summer?
My initial thought was, well, gosh, it would probably be, we've already lost about everything. So why not just lose the name too? We'll just start fresh. We'll start fresh and clean. So, I think it was probably a good thing. And if, yeah, I felt like it was pretty much needed. But at the same time, I still call them the Washington Redskins, because it's a habit. But yeah, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. I'm okay with it, I think.
Do you have an idea for a name that you would like to hear, or and also what were your thoughts on the season that just passed for the football team, or the
Right.
Redskins?
Right. I don't really have an idea on the name change or anything, but I think the season was a lot better, especially with beating the Steelers after they were undefeated. So that was a big, moment for me that I really remember. And then just, watching them and, Alex Smith went into, comeback player of the year and, watching Chase Young perform, which, that's really good too. I just think we have some good seasons coming ahead of us, especially with our new head coach. So we should be okay.
Yeah, I'm crossing fingers
I
as
know it.
well. There's nowhere to go but up, especially after winning the division, because they said before, once you learn how to win, everything else falls into place. Doesn't matter if
Exactly.
you're 7-9 or you're 6-10 and things like
Right.
that. There are plenty of teams that struggle but won a division. You can look at the Seahawks. They won
Right.
one playoff game. They were 7-8-1, I think. Beat the Saints, and then a couple of years later, they at least won a Super Bowl. And they were in another one too.
Exactly. Yeah. I think it's all going to go up from here. I think we're going to have some probably good draft picks. So we should be good. I'm just ready to get back to a game.
Oh yeah, definitely. I'm hoping that soon. Who is your baseball team? I don't. As much as we talk about that, are you a big baseball fan while you played softball?
I'm not, no. But if I had to choose one, it'd probably be the Yankees. You're probably an Orioles fan, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I'd probably choose the Yankees just because if I had to choose one.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't watch much baseball, just, football, softball, that's about it.
Mm-hmm. That's why I was always curious, because I know a few people who play softball. They're like,
Yeah.
I played sports, but I don't watch it much, or
Right.
I don't watch baseball or things like that. That's why I was really curious about that aspect.
Right. I just think to me, this is me personally, I just feel like it's just like a slowed down thing. I just don't like it. I just feel like it's like kind of slow. Like it's a slowed down type thing to me. I don't know. I don't know. Maybe it's just from playing softball so long and I'm used to the high energy or something. I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Do you prefer watching sporting events on TV, or live, or in live in
Um,
stadium?
oh, definitely live. Definitely. Depending what the game is. So like my friends and I will usually go to the Redskins home opener. So, we've missed out on that these past, 1 or 2 years. So that's always a fun time. And I just like the atmosphere of it at our home field. I'm not going anywhere else. Like Eagle Stadium, I'm not going. But but if we're going to FedEx Field, we're in there. I mean, any opportunity we can get to watch it live, definitely. But yeah, other than that, I mean, we're okay with watching it on television. But I just love FedEx Field.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to when they build a new
Right.
stadium that's a little more metro accessible. But that's for me. Driving in the middle of Prince George's County and trying to get on 95 is just a pain. But if they build it where RFK is, just get right off on Stadium Armory, I'll be good to go.
There you go. Exactly.
Well, Kelly, I really do appreciate it. For everyone who's been watching, thank you so much. I'll be back on doing another live stream Thursday with some more UMES alums as well. But until then, I really appreciate it. And Kelly, me and you will finish the conversation up a little off air. So if you can stick with me, I really appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening, and we'll see you guys again.
See ya.